Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. My name is Lori Clark. I'm the director of the Social Policy Institute at San Diego State University. And I am so pleased to be joined today by Melissa Hanna, Executive Director of United Parents, and also by Milan Zavala, who is a person with lived experience and a parent leader in our field who has inspired me so much already just as we've gotten to know each other in preparing for this workshop. And I know that you're going to enjoy hearing from both Milan and Melissa today. So we are here, probably what attracted you to the workshop today is the theme that we're going to be talking about. And so our goal really is to go beyond parent engagement. Lots of good things going on there. It's something that all of us working with children, youth, families, and communities should be focused on. But what we're really going to lift up today and really emphasize the most is, once engaged, how to really amplify that voice of parents and caregivers. Amplifying the voice to the extent of which there's leadership, there's influence in policy, there's meaningful change taking place. That is because of parents and caregivers coming forward and sharing their stories and sharing their experience. So with that in mind, as an overview of the workshop, I'm going to turn this over to Melissa Hanna.
Thank you, Lori. Hi, everyone. I was looking through the participant list, and I know quite a few of you here, so it's good to see some common names or some names that I'm familiar with. So thank you, friends, for coming on and supporting and always being a big United Parents and Parents for Parents and Caregivers for Wellness supporter. So thank you all. Anyway, so those of you who didn't already know my struggles with these lip plumpers, that's why there's some stuff in the chat. I am also the, when I'm looking for lip plumping accessories, I'm also the executive director at United Parents. So those of you who don't know, we are, you can read on the screen, we're a grassroots nonprofit or community-based. I don't really like using nonprofit unless it's right. We have to for money reasons or tax exempt reasons, but we are very much a community-based organization. So I'm really excited to be here today. So when Lori initially asked me, I was a little nervous, right? Because, we'd rather die than public speak. But I know the importance of this, so that's why I'm here today. But we're also diving into something that's the heart of what we do at United Parents and Parents and Caregivers for Wellness is the power of storytelling and amplifying the voice of parents. So United Parents, we are an organization built by parents for parents. Ellen Linder started United Parents in 1990. I'm still in contact with her. She was in the trenches. We've all been in the trenches navigating, the mental health systems, advocating for our kids, trying not to lose our sanity in the process, right? We've learned that no one else understands our journey like the other parent who's been there. And for over 30 years, we've been providing peer support, educational advocacy, respite services, and mental health focused events and for families in Ventura County, and then now across the state of California. Basically, we're here to make sure parents and caregivers feel supported, empowered, and a little less alone in this kind of wild ride, right? And so for Parents and Caregivers for Wellness Collaborative, this is funding provided by the Commission for Behavioral Health, which is formerly known as Mental Health Services Oversight and Accountability Commission. And with this funding, we are the lead agency for Parents and Caregivers for Wellness. It's kind of the, if you will, the Justice League of parent advocacy. And except instead of capes, we're armed with lived experience and a whole lot of passion. Together, we work to make sure families across the state have access to the mental health supports they need, and that policymakers actually listen to people with living these experiences. And some of our partners, because we can't do this alone, we're a small entity, Some of the partners we work with are CAMASI, California Mental Health Advocates for Children and Youth, African American Health Families, Side by Side, The Whole Child, and you'll hear more about Pluma's Rural Services later. Those are some of our partners. Okay, next story. Thank you. And so you can see here is our vision and goals. I'm not gonna, you guys can read that, but I wanted to focus on that picture in the middle of the screen. So during COVID, and I know it's so straight, doesn't it just feel like it was so crazy that time, right? But it was like 5 years ago. But during COVID, we weren't able to meet families in person, right? So we did a lot of our work virtually. And what we did was we do an annual report. And in our annual report, we usually add pictures of the family members or the events we attend, and we weren't able to attend any events. So we reached out to the parents and caregivers we work with and said, hey, can you guys draw us, like send us drawings? We're going to put it on our annual report. And we work with Lori Clark and her team, the Social Policy Institute, to help us write this annual report. And so the parents sent us quite a few drawings. We gave them gift cards for their time. And then we selected a couple. This is one of them. This was one of the parents that drew this beautiful art work reflecting what was happening in her home and in her community during COVID. And I think we all can look at this picture and relate to that time, right? Kind of takes you back. So I just wanted to share that about that. Next, Lori. So I'm just going to go into, some of parent storytelling, the reason why we're here. So, why stories matter. So, as parents, we often find ourselves fighting for services, pushing through bureaucracy and explaining like again and again what our children need. There's facts, there's data, there's figures, those can be ignored, but a personal story, right? When you hear that, it just pulls on different heartstrings. It sticks, a story makes the invisible visible and, the unheard undeniable. So research actually shows that people are wired for stories. When we hear statistics, there's some of us, I know some people who love data. And so sometimes some of us, like myself, when we hear statistics, only like the language processing parts of our brains light up. But when we hear like a personal story, multiple parts of our brain activate, including emotions, empathy, and even memory, right? That's why storytelling is one of the most powerful tools we have, not just for healing, but for change. And, United Parents, we don't just acknowledge the power of stories, we build everything we do around these stories. All of our staff, or 75% or more, are also parents with lived experience at United Parents. One last part, we see it every day in our parent support groups, in our, we have drop-in centers, we work with parents every day. These are spaces where parents don't have to, justify their experiences or prove their struggles are real. Instead, they get to tell their stories in their own words so people truly listen and understand. We also see it, it's the foundation of United Parents. We help parents, those who have walked the path, reaching back to guide those just starting their journey. There's no greater comfort than hearing, I've been there too, right? And when we talk about advocacy, we have an advocacy day at the Capitol every year. We invite parents from throughout the state to join us in Sacramento to meet with their district representatives. And we don't lobby or sit and just sit in meetings. These are parents standing up and saying, this is what happened to me, and this is why things need to change. These stories have helped shape policies, increased funding, and improved access to services. And I'm going to go into next introducing you to one of the parents that we have we're fortunate to work with. And so I'm going to to move it along, and so I know you guys are probably tired of hearing me ramble. I'm going to move it on to Milan. Milan Zavala is a parent who's going to share her story. And so Milan, take it away.
Hello, my name is Milan Zavala. I am a mother of 3 wonderful children, ages 23, 19, and 12. All 3 of my children have struggled with various forms of disabilities, which include mental and behavioral health disabilities, intellectual disabilities, and autism. One of my children became extremely disabled by her mental condition when she was unable to attend she was unable to attend a regular school setting from the ages of 8 and through 10. Her disability prevented her from having a normal childhood and from forming friendships with other children. Throughout my children's journeys, I came across the same issues over and over. I, for one, was not being heard. My opinion didn't mean much, and I was told I could not get the services I was requesting to help my children thrive in the school setting. I attended IEP meetings with no knowledge, hoping I would walk out with the help my children needed. Unfortunately for me, it was not easy. I felt as if I were in a battle with the school system to find help for my children. I became frustrated and I felt left out. I was already feeling alone, depressed, and discouraged. I was referred to United Parents by my daughter's therapist. Through United Parents, I received the help of an educational advocate who was of great help to me. Once I started attending IEP meetings with my educational advocate, I was being heard. I started seeing positive changes in my children or in my child's educational plan, and I felt included in all decisions. I became knowledgeable of my rights as a parent. My educational advocate explained the process, my rights, and my child's rights to me in a way that I could understand them. This had a profound impact on me. I admired my educational advocate and hoped to one day gain as much knowledge as she had to make it easier for myself and my children in the future. It was at that moment that I realized I was no longer alone. I decided to go back to school and uh, earned an associate degree in paralegal studies. This made it easier for me to research and read legal documents. I wanted to learn more about my rights and my children's rights to help them and hopefully someday help others. As I learned to advocate for my children, I became an expert in their educational plan. It no longer felt like a struggle. What I went through with my own children inspired me to want to help others who may be in the same boat as I was. But I had no idea where to begin. At one of the job fairs at my college, I saw a United Parents booth. As I approached it, I saw Hannah, the United Parents office manager, who I had once worked with in the past. She introduced me to Advocacy Day at the state's capital, which I had never heard of. I was fortunate enough to be invited to this event by United Parents. Attending Advocacy Day was one of the best days of my life. I was able to speak with my local assembly representative, Juana Lanis. I advocated for 2 bills that directly impacted my daughter through her journey. I felt heard and empowered. It was there where I discovered my calling. I finally knew what I wanted to do. Finding out later that 2 bills I advocated for had passed gave me the encouragement to pursue my dreams and share my story to help others who may feel lost and alone. There is help out there, and much more importantly, never lose hope. When I got back home from Advocacy Day, I enrolled in the Caregivers for Wellness newsletter to find out how I could get involved advocating for children. About a month later, I came across an announcement from the California Behavioral Health Planning Council. They were taking applications for council members to advocate for children and teens, among others. I quickly went to their website and researched all the information available to see if I was a fit. I then filled out my application, sent it in, and hoped for the best as there were only 2 spots available. A couple of months went by, and I was invited to a quarterly meeting. 2 weeks later, I was interviewed, and a week after that, I received an email with my appointment to the council. My my daughter grew up to become a resilient, smart, hardworking young lady. One second.
So I'm going to give Milan just a moment here. She and I decided to team up in this way, and it's understandable that the emotion is there and very strong. Your pride is coming forward in a way that I think warms and touches all of our hearts. And Milan, I just want to say, I'm not sure if you noticed the screen as you were talking about your story, but look at all the hearts out there now. And the hearts have been flooding up the whole time you've been talking. So we're listening with both ears, all of us, and we really want to just reach out and affirm you and say thank you for sharing your story. It's very powerful to hear how you navigated from, being a participant to really deciding you wanted to be a leader and having the courage to reach out and take the opportunity to speak to your congressman. My goodness, that was amazing and took a lot of courage to do that. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, I'm ready. My daughter grew up to become a resilient, smart, hardworking young lady. She joined a dance team in high school with whom she competed and became a two-time world champion. She is a cheer captain at her college, has 2 jobs, and is thriving. My oldest daughter is a clinical medical assistant and has purchased her first home. My son is thriving in the general education setting and is extremely smart with interest in becoming a scientist. I believe that having support for myself made it possible for me to have the strength to support my children. Being heard and included in their care and educational plans made a huge difference, and I am thankful I had the support and was no longer alone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Milan. I think we're all a bit richer and a bit more encouraged to do our part to speak up when there's an opportunity to advocate following your example. So I just want to say to everyone on the call today, we want to invite the opportunity to have more of a conversation and less of just a straight presentation. Several of you have put comments in the chat. We'll save those for you, Milan, so that you can see those. But if anyone would like to share a reflection or say something to Milan about the story that she shared, I would invite you to come off mute and do that now for a moment.
Any personal examples, but as a clinician, having attended IEP meetings with families for moral support, unfortunately, I've seen firsthand situations where, to put it bluntly, there was injustice to the process. And I think it's one of those things where you kind of have to see it yourself to see that that sort of thing does happen. And unfortunately, that's why I guess we're having this conversation is to for us to recognize that there's always a need for advocacy, and it's always important to hear these firsthand stories from parents about how challenging it can be and how I guess we shouldn't take for granted that there's always the need to speak up for children's needs and how we as professionals can help somewhat in the process within the scope of whatever employment or roles are.
Thank you, Antonio, for lifting your voice as well. And thank you for the support that no doubt you personally, as well as your department, the Department of Behavioral Health Services there in San Joaquin, they've been such a huge supporter of the amplification of parent voice. So grateful for that and just really so important. Any other comment or reflection before we go on?
Milan, my name's Dana. I'm just really profoundly inspired by your courage to show up your authentic self and model vulnerability and your story, your passion, your advocacy, your education, everything you're modeling for your 4 children. You exemplify all parents in California and beyond. So my heart feels that you are a profound inspiration for anybody that is blessed to be in your presence. And I'm grateful to be in this room with you this afternoon. Bless you, truly.
Thank you, Dana.
All right, Melissa, would you like to introduce our next parent?
Sure. So just wanted to give you all a little background. So we, when we decided to do this presentation, Lori had said, can you find two parents? And, which is tough because we have a lot of parents that we work with. That's all we work with. So of course, Milan came to mind. And I also thought we've been working in the more rural communities now. So this, with our funding, and even in our county, with our county funding, I see some of our county reps here. They've been so supportive also in us trying to work in the smaller rural areas. So I thought what best to then have a parent in a rural area come on and talk about their struggles as well, and then discuss some of their successes. And so I reached out to Jolene. She's up in the northern region in a very small community. I think the population in her county was like maybe 500 or so. It was very 5,000 max. It was very, very tiny. Of course, Jolene has been with us through this ride, and she's been wonderful. But of course, like we all know, and those other parents in here who have children with IEPs, it's her nephew, had an emergency IEP today, so she couldn't join us. So Lori instead she sent us her story. So Lori instead is gonna read her story for you all.
Thank you, Melissa. It's really an honor to share Jolene's story with you. So as you see her picture there and her very powerful quote, I just encourage you to imagine her voice and to picture yourself in a similar situation. Hi, I'm Jolene. I have 5 children, 11 grandkids, and I still have a 13-year-old at home, which is my great nephew, but I've had him since birth. And I want to share with all of you that when we talked to Jolene yesterday, she said, and he's my son. Never mind how he came to me, he's my son. He has had 3 open heart surgeries, a cleft lip and mouth, and has had ADHD, autism, and intellectual disabilities and mental disorders. We moved to the rural area from the Bay Area a few years ago. The schools up here are very small. They don't have the resources, but they really need them like we had in the Bay Area. So I reached out to Plumas County Rural Services and know I had a great advocate. And last year I was invited by United Parents and the Rural Service to go to the Capitol and advocate for our children with special needs. It was so amazing and really an eye-opener. We all have stories to tell and they need to be heard. Before I received any help, I didn't think I could do this because I felt alone and I was scared because the schools are intimidating. But I want you to know that there's always hope. Just hold on to that hope and you'll get through anything. It's in my heart to advocate for children and to speak up when need be. Thank you guys for listening to me, and I hope you guys all have a great day. And that's from Jolene. So a little bit different reflection, and it shows you the range of issues with parents and the diversity of needs. Melissa.
And just wanted to also mention, Jolene is 20 years in recovery, and she's very proud of that, and we were very proud of her for that as well. And so she's going to be at our advocacy day again this year, which is in a couple of months, and so will Milan. And so I'm really excited to also hear their stories when they go to their local representatives and advocate for mental health supports for our kids. So again, those are our stories, and we thank you all for listening to those stories. And we're going to move on to our parent engagement toolkit. So I wanted to give you a little bit of background on this. Again, United Parents, Parents Caregivers Wellness. We've been working with the Social Policy Institute with Lori Clark and her team, and they write our annual report every year, and it's just so beautifully written. And one of the things, we really listen to the theme each year, the parent concerns, what we're seeing across the state. And, we let Lori and her team know, and then they so beautifully articulate that in this wonderful report. And last year we were saying, it's so important, the outreach and getting the outreach. People are really trying to outreach to the parents, the families. Outreach is really important, and engaging with these families as well, and what to do when you engage with these families. And so we really discussed having kind of almost like a standalone toolkit that's part of our report that almost can be pulled out separately and utilized separately. And so Lori put together this beautiful toolkit. I almost feel like when I speak to it, I don't give it enough justice. So Lori is going to speak to the toolkit because she can articulate its message and what it's trying to provide to you better than I can, I feel. So without further ado, Lori Clark from Social Policy Institute.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa. And I have to tell you and everybody that we have the easy job at Social Policy Institute, and that is putting your words on paper and formatting it a little bit and helping with the flow. But the really hard work is done by the parents and caregivers and by you and the staff that are supporting you and continuously lifting up their stories and their voice. So it's a real honor to serve you in that way. So I was pleased when you invited us to help shape a toolkit based on the great work that you're doing. And we know that there's other parent engagement toolkits out there already. This is similar and it maps to them. Our goal here was to really be very specific in applying this to the parents and caregivers that are served by United Parents, and to, as much as possible, take the jargon out of engagement. And so you see the quote on the top right there, that came out of the family development credential work, but we've used it over time, and it really invites us to have a focus on power with, not power over. So it speaks to that capacity, it speaks to partnership, and it really speaks to the authenticity of us being people together, moving a common cause forward. So again, the toolkit, as you see there, was really developed to help any community-based organization or children's system of care or some of the emerging community pathways that we're talking about in the scheme of comprehensive prevention right now, to really focus the central importance of working with, not for, parents and caregivers and their children as a family. And I want to say too that part of the spirit behind this toolkit and the work that we've done together is recognizing with humility, authenticity, and respect that parents and caregivers are absolutely the experts on their own children, on their lives, and on what needs to happen to create wellness together. And so it's with that respect and humility that we give voice to some of the work that they've done and what we've learned through them. So one part in the toolkit, which by the way is on Whova, the Whova platform, you heard from Melissa that their annual report with the pullout as well as this toolkit as a standalone is there. And there also will be contact information at the end. So if you can't find it for any reason, feel free to reach out to Melissa or to us at the Policy Institute. But this image that you see on the right there should look familiar, because we thought, again, that there's great work out there. We didn't need to duplicate it, but we wanted to translate it into our language. So if you look at those stages along the top of this continuum where you see the arrows, This really goes from educating and informing, asking for input, regular check-ins, evolving partnerships to full partnership. What I love is the addition of those arrows below, because really when we stay in the first two parts of that continuum only, it's one-way communication. We're giving and the parents receiving. Even when we're asking for input, we're taking the gift that they've given us and we're using that without their ongoing partnership. But as we move along in the continuum, when those check-ins are more regular, when we are forming the partnerships, and most importantly, when we step back and celebrate and participate and follow the leadership of parents and caregivers, that's when we're truly actualizing the entire toolkit. The other part of what I love about this version of it is that what we tried to do is tease out what's the goal of parent and child engagement and at each step. And then also, as you see there, what we tell parents and caregivers. So that grows along with our commitment to following parents and caregivers, not to leading and not to just partnership. But we start with saying, yeah, we're reliable. You can count on information that you hear from us, all the way to full partnership, where our language changes and we begin to say things like, we will work to make sure your decisions are implemented. We're not telling you what decisions to go and advocate for. We're listening for what you think needs to happen and doing everything that we can to partner together with you. So just a slightly different way of laying out the engagement and really encouraging us all to think about what stage we're at and where and how we can move along throughout that continuum. Another tool that you'll see there, and it begins to amplify what I just illustrated to you, is the stages of co-powering of parents and caregivers. So we love this term co-powering because it fits with not power over, but power with. So the co-powering. And again, you see the stages there from educating and informing to requesting regular input. Melissa, can you talk a little bit about what you do for regular check-ins and some of the other stages as well?
Thank you, Lori. So if any of the parents, reach out and we request, their story or just even their feedback. So for instance, if we have to do any like focus groups, or we call them discussion forums with the parents, we write down what they say. We listen to what they say and we write it down. But everything that you hear from somebody can be your own perspective. So I make sure, and we make sure that whenever parents share anything that they want us, to be kind of that vessel of moving that information, we read back what was said to us, or we have a discussion about like, this is what I'm gathering from you, or this is what I wrote down that you want us to share with others, and make sure that they understand that this is what, or this is what they said. And this is what they meant when they shared their information, so that when we go and provide this information, maybe to, maybe wherever we need to share this information, that we make sure that we're getting their point across, and that we're getting their story read correctly, and that we're sharing their intent on that specific message or information. So it's always revisiting, right? Making sure, and then even keeping them involved throughout the stages. So, hey, thank you for sharing this information. We're taking this. So for instance, we meet with the local county representatives after we have events. And so we'll take what some of the parents say, we write it down, we reread it, make sure that the message is clear. We go to the county representatives and let them know, hey, this is what some of the parents are saying. And then we know when we receive the information back that we can take that back to the parents and let them know we are using your information and it is going somewhere. It's not just falling on deaf ears or going nowhere.
Thanks so much, Melissa. I want to open that up now to others on the call for a reflection on how you have either experienced, if you're with us as a parent or caregiver, or if you're here as a parent advocate, how you have been intentional about co-powering within these stages. Any comments on that?
Can I just add, I forgot to mention too, and not just taking that information, right? We also include the parents. So not just taking that information, but we know parents are busy, but also inviting them. So, hey, thank you for sharing that information, but we also are meeting with local representatives, or we have this committee, would you like to join? So making sure that it's not just us disseminating or sharing their information, they're also physically included.
Thank you, Melissa. Gwen, please go ahead.
And just really in awe of everything, and so grateful to have the parents' perspective. And my come away and feedback of really sharing that leadership is it makes my job so much easier. I'm not trying to make it up. I actually have like parents there that are like, I want to share my experience. And so it really, the big takeaway for me working with parents and really like having that voice at the table is their value that they bring, and that it really does make and supports the work that I do, but I can't do the work that I'm doing without them. So it's a really cool thing. And then I just had a quick question and I put it in the chat, but I'm curious if you have any questions that you specifically ask parents and caregivers to really like tailor to what you're trying to share, or if it's just, can you share your experience and then you use that to support.
First of all, thank you for giving voice in such a beautiful way to the absolute importance and necessity of having parents in positions of leadership and working together in partnership. So thank you for your words and laying that out so beautifully. And thank you for your great question as well. Antonio has responded to that in the chat. Melissa, would you like to respond to how you handle that through United Parents?
Sure. Usually we used to have a parent storytelling webinar, so we would have it every other month. It was just, we would still do it. It was just difficult to get some of the parents to sign up because everyone's busy. But we would have a list of questions, because what we initially did was we just said, share your story, and we want it to be unscripted. But sometimes what happened is, the audience would receive it differently. And, so sometimes it depends. We would not try to script it. We would just say, here's some bullet points to focus on, to kind of get back to, telling the story with more of a, not in a positive light, but adding hope, right? Because we wanted to make sure what we were discovering is that some people, it would kind of take them down like a negative path. And as far as the listeners, and so we wanted to make sure that everyone was being authentic with their storytelling. So we always said, please be authentic, share your story. It's your story. There's nothing, we don't want to tell you how it should be told, but we always would say, please end your story with hope.
Yeah, so what you're hearing from Melissa really are sort of general guidelines, but I think the bottom line is we want to always make sure that we're not overly guiding or directing the parent's storytelling or experience. It's their story to tell. And so I think those guidelines can be, but a tip like end with hope, end with what was hopeful for you or what worked in your experience. Yes, talk about the barriers and challenges, but also talk about what worked. The other thing is that I think timing is so critical, and care and support around presenting as well. So it's absolutely essential that this is part of trauma-informed care, right? Which we all apply to each other because trauma is widespread and pervasive, and we've all experienced it in one form or another. But part of what that means is creating a safe space. So I referenced talking to Jolene yesterday, even though she couldn't be with us today. Melissa, Milan, Jolene, and I had our own conversation to sort of tell, for each of us to tell our stories, to have that opportunity to feel supported. And what you saw was a partnership between Milan and I that was made up right on the spot. It's like, oh, what if I become emotional? How can we handle that? How can I get a moment? We were able to work that out. And so that was very helpful. And one of the things that we want to be mindful of. Others on the call that have reflections or thoughts about that, about what we do to support parents in telling their story, or what we need to make sure we're getting out of the way of. Any comments on that?
I think parents have to be comfortable, right? I work for Head Start, and one of our mottos is to have a space where they feel comfortable, they can relax, and be able to open up. Because standing up, having a conversation really sometimes doesn't work. Our advocates really work towards bringing a parent somewhere where it's quiet and nice, and maybe having some coffee or tea. We have a little group called Parent Connections every month, and parents are able to come there and share their stories, which has really been very helpful for a lot of our parents.
Thank you, Kelly. Jasmine also spoke to that a little bit with her comment about, some of the work that she's doing in prevention services and the importance of having that parent partner connection or component. So thank you, Jasmine, for lifting that up for everybody.
Yes, for sure. And I will say that it does go a long ways for parents to have that parent partner with them, advocating for them, and also being able to just have that just person that they could really lean on, and understand them. And it goes a long way for sure.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. All right, I'm going to lead us through a little bit of a focus on some of the other components that you'll see in the toolkit. And these are just high-level summary of some recommended strategies that United Parents has put together. And you see on a high level there, establishing a vision. That starts with being really clear for why and how we want to engage parents and caregivers, not to be nonchalant, not to make it up as we go, but to show the respect of really having that well thought out, being prepared to use the parent's preferred language. And as you were just describing, Jasmine and Kelly, also having that welcoming space that shows hospitality. So going where parents go, not always inviting parents to come to our office or come to our organization, but showing the respect to go to them. Leading with wellness, having that strength-based, trauma-informed approach to everything that we do, asking questions, not assuming. Focusing on staff capabilities and relationship. Melissa, can you elaborate on what a couple of those look like for United Parents?
On the staff capabilities, or on the other?
Any that you'd like to speak to.
Yeah, and I also wanted to offer too, is having a few different forums as well. Not, of course, always going to the places where the families frequent, but also offering a forum or other places for parents to be able to come and share their story. So a lot of times when we have, parents that are just newly, just started in the system, they're very nervous, there's a lot of unknown, there's maybe too many resources and they're just unsure. I really like to offer like support groups because they don't have to share their story right away. They're going to be surrounded by others with similar experiences. They're going to learn a lot and build those relationships and then start attending and then getting that courage up and then offering these other forums, which is like, the opportunity like here where we, invited Milan to come and speak in a larger forum, or advocacy days, or like Milan had joined the California, all that, the acronym I can't remember, but having different forums and opportunities for the parents to be involved in sharing their story, not, is really important as well. And then, as an agency, making sure that we all keep in mind that when we hire, when your mission is surrounding, supporting and co-empowering, that when you hire parents, that you also allow that space for them to continue sharing their story and learning, and also that compassion and understanding and non-judgment is really important in all of that as well.
You, Melissa. So several folks are asking for materials and the PowerPoint and so forth. So just in case anyone's not able to click on to chat, all of these, the PowerPoint, the annual report, the toolkit are on the Whova platform and downloadable from there. And Whova can be complicated. I know I have trouble with it. So I put my email in the chat and so did Melissa. So please feel free to reach out to either one of us and we'd be happy to send that to you directly. Anyone else on the call that has a comment or reflection on any of these strategies, something you've done to implement them well?
I have a comment, Lori.
Please go ahead, Milan.
I've just from like personal experience, before I was even able to share my story with anyone, while I was going through it, it was pretty hard to think of it on my own as a like, oh, I want to tell someone, because you're going through all of these things with your child. Maybe if other children, you have other children at the same time, and it's kind of hard for you to even go find help for yourself, or try to find support for yourself where you're like, okay, I'm also a person here and I need to talk to someone, but who can I talk to? I can't really trust some of my family maybe, or friends, or you might not want to get into details with other people because you're scared of judgment. um, and when you have like a parent partner or somebody that comes to you, when you can't bring your child places, like, with children that have like extreme disabilities, you can't just take them to your therapy session, or you can't be like on the phone with other people while they're having like tantrums, or having just a bad day. So, kind of having somebody that really understands what's going on and how your day to day goes, and just being there to listen to you, even if it's just for 5 minutes of something that you really have to get off your chest because there's nobody else to talk to, really helps. So, even if it's not sharing your full story, just it starts with little bits and pieces, because at times you don't know where to start your story. So it could be that you just have something that you need help with, or just kind of like relieving yourself of the bad day you had, is also really helpful.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for letting us know how that's been for you over time, how what you're focused on, what you're comfortable with evolves over time, and what some of those considerations are. Those are really great for all of us to keep in mind. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, we also wanted to invite some conversation around some of the insights that United Parents has gathered over time and invite you to add some of your insights as well. So one of the big ones from the beginning is refrain from alphabet soup. And we know that that's so easy for folks in systems and organizations to just use that for shorthand because most of us know what it means, but it's one of the things that destroys equity right away when we have what feels like a secret language to parents and caregivers because we know the acronyms and they don't. And what is equally true about that sort of goes with a real commitment and a discipline to avoid words that hold stigma. So some of the things to be mindful of going forward. Also, secondly, to recognize that there are many right answers, not just one right answer. And part of what we're all looking at within our counties as we build out the comprehensive prevention plan and move toward community pathway is we're moving toward a no wrong door, but if you want to put it in a positive every right door. So that right place to go where parents and community members, youth can go to get their needs met. Just like that, it reflects an openness to the diversity that links us all together and to really lifting up the strength in each other. I think some of these others are really good and helpful reminders. They're a little bit straightforward, but I think that these are some of the things that just from the get-go really center our work with parents and caregivers. So again, I want to open up to everyone on the call to see if there are either reflections on these insights or insights of your own that you would like to add to the mix.
I would like to share a comment, Lori.
Please go ahead.
I remember feeling like I wasn't involved at all in like either the care or education for my child. The doctors would speak in a language pretty much that I didn't really understand, like acronyms or um, among each other, and I felt so excluded because I had no idea what they were talking about, and I would give my opinion or um, kind of like what I wish would happen or what kind of help I needed, but it felt like I wasn't really being heard, or maybe my comments didn't matter because they had their own uh, treatment plan or their own educational plan that they thought was going to work better for my child. And I'm the one at home with my child, dealing with my child on a daily basis. So just kind of understanding that whatever the parent has to say is probably the best, what would I say, comment or the best idea that fits better for that child. So just kind of having like an open mind with the parent and letting the parent know that they are also a part of the team and not just the parent, because it whatever happens in the home does affect every individual family member. Um, and a lot of the time, caregivers or providers or anybody else involved doesn't really understand that whatever happens in the home affects everybody. So yeah, that I just wanted to comment on that.
I accidentally clicked off of it.
So important. Thank you for
Whoops.
making that come alive for us, Milan. And I just really resonated when you talked about the best idea and really the only workable idea comes from the parent and from the family. Because if it doesn't make sense to the parent, if the parent doesn't like the idea or agree with the idea, it's not going to be implemented. So on the one hand, it's logical. On another hand, it's respectful, but it all makes sense. And you really help that to come alive. So thank you for that. Gwen, please go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Milan. That was going with what I was like wanting to share. It really that the parents are the experts of their own family, and that they need to be the ones leading the charge and we're just supporting the work. And then I love your number 2 on here. There are many right answers and many right doors. And so it's such strength-based wording. So thank you.
Thanks for your comments. Anyone else with a comment or an insight of your own?
No, but I just wanted to say what a great work you guys all doing. It's pretty honestly inspiring because I didn't know none of these programs were available out there. So it's really cool just to hear different things and different organizations are out there. So thanks everyone for your great work, and thanks Milan and for sharing your experience, and also for reading, and I forgot her name, who read the other letter. So thank you for sharing that with all of us. Definitely appreciate it. So thanks.
Oh, thank you, Nancy. It's so heartwarming to hear that from you. And I agree, I have that feeling too. I feel a great sense of connection on this call in particular, that, whether it's a comment in the chat or one that someone is making and coming off mute for the sharing with the entire group, there's a theme here of working together and lifting up these good practices. And here's one more just sort of way of looking at it. Hopefully what you've seen with the slides, this is less about the content than just sort of giving things to think about. Of course, when you go to the toolkit, all of these are elaborated and broken down. But when we think about not just doing a one and done, but when we really take seriously power with, not power over, that we want to do more of that and we want to keep doing it. So that's a plain language saying implementation and sustainment. But things to think about include that team approach, the welcoming environment, being real, which is what we bring to the table. Just looking throughout there, lots of different places of influence. And then another part that the toolkit talks about is being intentional about how we structure engagement. So like that very first one, Milan spoke to that in some of her comments. It's like the timing. If you've got a kid screaming in the background, that's not the time to call and try to get me on a Zoom. I need to be parenting my child at the moment. So really being flexible, thinking about that timing. I think the second one there, no one likes the runaround. None of us like that. And yet, how often is it the default in our programs? And so really guarding against that. And also recognizing basic needs come first. And sometimes as we are able to help build a bridge or a link to meeting those needs, at the same time, it builds trust, particularly if we follow through and do what we say we're going to do. Making the language accessible, that's the plain language piece, and creating on-ramps is making it easy to come on board, making it easy to engage. So lots of you within your programs and the parents on the call too have experienced this differently, but we lift that up in the toolkit as something to be mindful of. So we have just a couple of thoughts for you on what to do with this toolkit. We're curious about your thoughts on how it could be useful in your organization or in your community, or parent sharing with other parents. We invite you to take.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us. Take the time to, read it through, look at that recommended plan, and add your own thoughts to that as well. So in a moment, we're going to wrap up and end right on time at 1:50. But I want you to think about this question, because we'll use our last few minutes to talk about that together. What are your thoughts based on what you've seen so far of how you can use the toolkit? And again, we have our contact there. If you didn't get it earlier from the chat or you need it again, you can take out your phone and just capture those QR codes, and you'll have our contact information to link back as well. Gwen.
Yeah, so thank you. This was so helpful. And the way that I can see my organization specifically using this toolkit and passing the information forward is currently we're working with Ventura County, Santa Barbara County, and SLO County are all working together.
Excuse me, just 1 minute. Someone on the call does not have their mute on, and it sounds like they're on another call. Are you able to mute? Okay, sorry to interrupt, Gwen.
That's okay. I was like,
wanted
oh,
to
maybe
capture
somebody
your
else has.
comment.
Please
I
go
know.
ahead.
I think Tanya's iPhone is the one that, if you can mute Tanya's iPhone. There we
Okay.
go. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. So what I was going to say is we're working as a coastal tri-county with all the CAPCs, child abuse prevention councils, to create a parent leadership pathway. And so I can really see your toolkit as being like this additional resource of, okay, now you've got the pathway, here's now your next steps. So I'm looking forward to taking those back to the team, being like, look, this is great, and thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Gwen. And we're certainly here to partner with you, United Parents and the Social Policy Institute. If we can be helpful in any way, we're happy to do that. We have time for one last comment. If anyone has a comment that you've been wanting to make. All right, well, with that, I just want to say thank you for investing the time to be with us today. Thank you for what you do in your own family, in your own community. And I'm hoping that some of what we've shared today and the other thoughts, ideas, tools, and resources that you'll gain throughout these 2 days of the prevention convening are very helpful to you. So take care. Be well, and I want to see if Melissa or Milan have any closing comments as we wrap up.
I just want to thank you guys for listening to my story and for all your great comments and all. Thank you guys.
Thank you, everyone. I shared the parent toolkit I think it's on HOVA, I'm not sure, but I also shared in the chat. And if you go on United Parents website, I'm trying to get to there's a Parents and Caregivers for Wellness website as well. And we travel the state, so check us out. We may be coming to your county soon. And so we would love to partner with any of you who would like to partner when we come to your county, and then you can invite families, and we provide a full day of training and food, and it's a great day, and childcare too. So I believe we're going to be in we were just in Marin County. We travel the state. Anyway, just check out our website and you'll find us.
Well, thank
Great
you
seeing
again.
you.
Enjoy the rest of your day and set your alarm clock. You do not want to miss tomorrow. We're going to start day 2 with a talk by Dr. Robert Sege, Bob, about hope, healthy outcomes from positive experiences. And you absolutely don't want to miss that. Take good care and look forward to seeing many of you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you for everything.